county. So I don't think that's been determined at the state level yet. They're still dragging their feet. They've let the gamblings went ahead, I don't know, sure. I guess school's out yet, or they're gonna be at the state level. Yeah,
Well, they're still writing all the regs.
huh?
They're still writing stuff.
Yeah, they're still writing stuff. And I don't think anything we do will probably end up overriding what they do.
Yeah.
I don't think it's legally possible to do something and override the state. I mean, we're gonna have to at least at a minimum abide by what they say. We maybe could put more on, would that be a fair statement? Yeah.
No, we cannot.
You can't do
We can't
more,
regulate beyond the state.
can't regulate, and we can't regulate less than the
We
state.
can, yes, we can. We can, no,
No,
certainly their stuff,
we'll
if it's in the
override
same
that.
arena, their stuff trumps us.
And if we try to go over them, there's spots that you can go over as an ordinance, over the state.
Right.
We
We
could,
gotta be very careful about where and how.
yeah,
Ask the city of Huron if you don't believe me.
right.
Uh,
It's like delegating who can have a pig barn and who can't. It's kind of hard to find that out. You know, it's hard to pick one over the other, you know. All right, Mr. A can have one, but Mr. B can't have one. you know.
2104 should be rather easy to deal with. All it does is allow us to recommend, if it is appropriate at a future time, to the county commission, that we expand the uses that are allowed in agriculturally zoned districts in Han County to include what is proposed here, which starts out with its cannabis and its definition, cannabis dispensary and its definition, cannabis establishment and its definition, and so on and so forth. And it just says those uses are allowed within the district, of course, within many parameters. So it does allow for what the people have authorized, which is medical dispensaries for marijuana. So all we're doing is expanding our ordinance to reflect the fact that the people wish for medical marijuana to be legal. And so they voted for it, and it passed, so our zoning ordinance needs to reflect that fact. I don't think there's anything controversial about that. It's legal,
So where do we go?
whether
with
some
that?
people like it or not.
Yeah, I mean, people voted for it.
Yeah.
So where do we go with that? Do we need to do anything or wait till
I
the
think we should, at least by consensus, say that, yes, we agree, we will recommend to the county commission, that the county commission change the zoning plan, the comprehensive plan, to allow the insertion of this language in terms of definitions and this language in terms of proposed legal uses of agriculturally zoned ground within the comprehensive plan. That's all.
To match the state,
Yep. Well, yes.
assuming this was gonna match the state.
Well, it will.
It will.
Yeah.
I wouldn't know nothing about that, whether it's gonna match. I think they're
I've
still
talked to
arguing
Elton,
about
those are the
it.
definitions that they're using.
What's that?
But I've talked to Elton, those are the definitions that are being used across the state and by the state. So they're not plowing new ground here.
Okay.
So whether or not you like medical marijuana use, our laws must reflect the current state of affairs. And that's the people that spoken, they said they want it.
So outside of the city limits within our counties, or within the city, I don't know.
No, just those areas that are zoned agricultural, which would
Right.
not be within any.
Be outside the city
Municipality.
limits.
Yep.
If they determine that they want them, we're gonna have to get them permitted through here.
Yep.
Now, what procedure? Now, what procedure?
Well, that comes next.
That's in the,
That's in the ordinance itself, which establishes what the price is gonna be to apply, how many we're gonna allow, how much of a refund we're gonna allow if we don't give them a license, but they put up their application fee and all those details. All we're doing as a planning commission is saying, yes, we need to recommend to the county commission that it do what is now legal.
Whatever the
And
state-
have our zoning law reflect what is now legal with regard to medical marijuana.
And that's whatever the state determines when they get done plowing around.
Well, we have to abide by whatever they say anyway.
So I guess that's kind of a given.
It is a given. But we can move on to the next matter if we have a consensus that we would recommend that to the county commission.
To me, this is a given. You're gonna do what the state tells you to do, not more, not less. You're gonna do what they say. Because they're gonna come up with legislation of what it's gonna be.
Well, they've already written a lot of the regs, but they aren't.
Yeah, but they're still scribbling on paper, I think, out there. I don't think they're done yet. So that, is there a consensus here that that would be a recommendation on the, we're doing the 2104?
That we recommend to the commission that it adopt 2104 eventually, yes, and it may morph into more refined language at some point, but the general consensus here is that yes, we need to do that, is what we would be saying. Just saying that our zoning regulations need to reflect the current state of the law. That's all we're saying.
Yes, medical cannabis passed even in
Yep.
Han County.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I move that we,
Well,
by consensus,
by consensus,
Agree
is
on it.
everybody,
Yep.
yeah. Okay, so we go to 2103 then.
okay, and that's the one that's got the holes in it that everybody has seen.
Right.
Doug,
You said you moved.
Huh?
You said that you moved.
No,
Well,
we're
Which
gonna
is
move.
different
just-
than
we're gonna-
consensus.
yeah, he thinks,
Oh.
the chairman says that he thinks consensus is sufficient.
Yeah, for
For the zoning
2104.
board? Okay, I just want to make sure I read it.
Right.
The
No,
planning
I
board.
misworded that. I said we're gonna move to 2103 now. I didn't mean to move
Okay,
that.
so
We're just
is
gonna
your
make a
motion to
recommendation.
adjourn as the planning board and reconvene?
You know, I think we could have the same discussion whether we're wearing planning zoning hats or county commission hats. Certainly, we can all remember what was said at the planning, or the planning commission stage when we get to the county commission stage. So I don't think we need to change.
We have a consensus now. That's the direction we're gonna go with 2104.
Yeah,
So
Okay.
does the planning committee have to fill in the blanks of 03?
that would provide us the casual setting that we need to work on filling in those blanks that you don't have at a county commission meeting.
Okay.
Okay, and then once we get those blanks filled, then, and we make a recommendation to the county commission then has all that in front of it, and it can read that ordinance as proposed for its first reading with all the blanks filled in, because the planning commission did all the work.
Okay.
See what I mean?
Yep.
Because we have to be able to read the ordinance in full. There's a first reading for that potentially today. For both of
So
those.
we, as a planning committee, now we could, I don't wanna use the word move, but I mean, we could work on 2103 now to see if we can come up with a consensus.
Exactly.
On filling in the blank.
Yep.
Because if we can't come with a consensus on how we want the blanks filled in, we can't make a recommendation to the board yet.
Exactly right.
If we can't get by these 5 people, we'll have trouble going on to the board as a seated board, you know, so. Anyway, let's discuss that on if we have a definite consensus or a non-consensus on 2103. What people think. Without spending till midnight tonight.
We can't have a consensus until all we can have a consensus about is whether we're gonna fill in the blanks. We can't have a consensus until we filled in the blanks, can we?
Correct.
Right, we gotta come up with something, otherwise we can't pass on a recommendation.
What's the application fee is the first blank we gotta fill, I think.
Elton did recommend that we have a motion, a second, and a majority vote for each blank. And,
That would be done in the board meeting after we make the recommendation.
Yeah.
First thing we gotta
The
decide
formal of all that is.
if that everybody's in the same boat.
What do we think? We've seen what other counties are charging for application fees. Anywhere from 5,000, 2,000, 125,000.
I'm kind of wondering, you know, in general discussion, because that's why we're doing it informally, is that everybody's got a voice in the deal, you know, but if we put it so high that nobody wants to have one here, then we just force people out of the community to do that business. Whether you agree with that business or not, it was voted for here. So if you don't have a dispensary here, then they probably have to travel to Pierre or Huron or Aberdeen or wherever. So I mean, I think it's gotta be reasonable.
The city of Miller has already passed their ordinance to allow one dispensary, and we have no jurisdiction over the city of Miller, so.
Right.
Somebody can build one in the city of Miller, they wouldn't have to travel out of the county.
What is their, I don't remember, I read anything too, what's their application and
Their application fee is $10,000. I'm only quoting from memory, so this may not be correct. Their application fee, the first year is $10,000 with 50% refundable at the end of the year. It's my understanding if there's no violations. And then their renewals, I believe, are $5,000 with 50% renewable at the end of the year.
Refundable at the end of the year?
Refundable,
50%?
I'm sorry, yes, renewable, refundable at the end of the year if they don't have violations.
What do they do in the event that 10 people apply, one guy gets it? What do they do with all those application fees? Does the applicant who failed get all their money back?
I don't know.
Do you think 10,000 is reasonable? for
I think it's up too high.
Upstart business in the community? I mean, we're talking about a legal entity here.
My recommendation was gonna be 50,000 for the county. There's places in South Dakota that are 100,000.
I believe Miller's was 10,000.
It is 10,000 and renewal fee is 5,000. I have the ordinance in here.
For Miller,
Yes,
with application is 10, Jamie?
yes,
Okay, and
and the renewal fee is 5,000.
okay,
is
and
there
what
anything
happens?
about the refunding half of it at the end of the year?
Yes,
That's
it's per section, I don't know exactly why.
It's 5,000 too, isn't it? So basically, you're paying
Yeah.
for 2 years in advance.
Right,
Okay, what about somebody who applies but doesn't get the license? Do they get all their money back, their application money back?
I believe it's 5,000.
I believe it's just 5,000.
5 out of 10. So you're risking $5,000
Correct,
that you won't be approved by applying.
correct.
Okay.
That's the way I read it. You too, Shane?
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is gonna be a city-run place?
No,
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 this is their
because-
application fee.
No, but they're gonna pick out who gets the application, so it's city-run. If there's 10 people apply and all throw their hat in, and then the city gets to pick out the one that gets to open the business, it's city-run.
New York.
well, that's one way
Unless
to
they do it
look at it.
not in city
Approved,
limits.
city approved.
City approved, it'd be just the same as this board, if we decided that there
If
could
you-
be one in the county, this board right here gets to determine the one.
The state's gonna put out regulations,
Right.
and you can have the county per city also.
Yeah.
So-
Well, we agreed upon that
The way,
earlier,
the
we
way
gotta
the
follow
law,
what
the
it
way
is.
the law is I read it. We only have to have one.
We only have to have.
We don't have to have
any
30,
more than
40 of them. I mean, we can just say one, that's it, because that's what the law says we have to have.
You have to have enough to curb the illegal sales, but not too many. It's.
It's like.
What do you think of
Besides
having,
that,
what do you think of having the same number as we have alcohol, rural beverage licenses? Are there 4, 3, 4? What if we said 4? It's in the same category as a vice, as booze.
no comment.
We're here to comment.
No, that's what we're having a discussion here. But if we say there can only be one outside the city limits and the county gets it, then it's county run. We're gonna pick out one guy and let him have it.
Well, we're giving somebody a monopoly, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's a monopoly whenever you do that.
And you can also do it as first person to apply and go through all of the.
Or by lottery, if there's multiple applications.
Yeah, you could do a lottery, it might be fair, because at least these 5 people are picking out who gets to have it. Or a horse race. You
I
know,
saw
we got
a
horse
company
race,
that was
so-
doing it by lottery.
He asked me to
They
find
have to
out.
have
before I
an
left.
establishment that is set up for the dispensary. It's not like you can get the application and just say, yep, I'm gonna open this. I mean, there's so many,
There's so much to it.
so much to it, they have to have,
You're gonna have one person that's serious about it,
yes.
that's gonna put up that much money, and that's why it's so high, is so that don't know how to say that politically.
Right, I know where you're going with
I know
that.
where you're going.
On every corner and every, just like a tattoo shop.
It's,
You
yeah,
don't want
it's-
every clown with a prison tattoo gun to open up a tattoo shop. You don't want every, right,
yeah, there you go, you got it.
right, to go to start selling out of every business in town or every.
So make it sufficiently steep of a
Yeah,
risk.
absolutely. It has to be a risk and they have to be serious about it and they have to have the financial backing to comply with all the state regulations. You're gonna have a lot of money to get started up. And my recommendation is if we keep the funds or the application fee at or higher than the municipalities, then we won't have to worry about it, because nobody's gonna open one on the corner of 45 and 26, and they can open it up in town.
Jamie, what is it at the city, 5?
Ten.
Okay,
10,000, and then the renewal fee is 5,000.
okay.
But you have to, if you've done enough research about this, that dispensary, there's not a location in town that would fulfill the state's laws that they have made out for these dispensaries. I mean, they have to have armored cars pick up their monies, they have to have.
Videotape
I mean,
equipment?
it's very extensive, and when you apply to the state, you have to have basically your whole floor plan, where the bars are gonna be on the windows, what kind of doors, everything. I mean, I've done a lot of reading on it, and it's not something that's just gonna happen overnight or
Are
in
you, are you predicting we probably won't even have such a dispensary within the city limits?
Well, the amount of people that call from California for places to buy in Han County.
Yep.
Yeah,
That's what's gonna
It's
happen.
not-
You gotta realize, the money that's gonna put up these things are not gonna be local people.
No, they're not.
And they're
And
not,
they're calling-
and most of them, the money that they're putting in may not even be really legal money.
It's not gonna.
They're gonna find a legal person that can pass
Money from
everything
the
from the
state,
state.
so you're gonna get your money in taxes and fees.
Yep.
You're not gonna get,
So you might as well make it high enough that if you're gonna get it,
you're not gonna get,
We didn't ask, was there any public commentary that was provided in writing?
None.
Okay.
I'm
Maybe,
still-
maybe you did and I missed it.
But no, but back to my first theory there too, I don't care what you set the money out or where it's at. If you have 2 or 3 people come and play, and we've already discussed that we can't be above what the state's asking, but we can't be below what the state's asking. They're gonna have to be in line with the state first before they
the
come to the
regulations,
county.
you know.
Yeah,
but I don't think the state's gonna regulate what the fees are gonna be.
No.
They're gonna leave that up to the.
They did?
Right,
We're gonna regulate
Right.
taxes, we're gonna
but
regulate.
if we say there's only one in the county, or only one in the city, now these 5 board members are gonna decide who that one is.
I would say if you're thinking about that and if there's gonna be more, do like you said, a lottery. That way, everybody throw their name in the hat, somebody pick it out.
I
don't think you're gonna have that problem, but
I don't think
Right,
it's a good
that-
idea either.
Then you have to put a deadline on.
I would like for us to be able to do some research on the company that's gonna put up such a business in town and not just pull it out of a hat.
Do research on the company, you say?
Absolutely.
yes.
Assuming
We have
that,
the same problem that he was talking about earlier with the hog confinement. Person A gets it, person B doesn't. Well, I like person A, but I don't like person B because I don't know all about him and everything, so
It
I'm
was
not
hard,
gonna
but
give
we
him.
also went through how big of a fight for that, for the hog. I mean, it wasn't.
Yeah, I wish we could have said there's only gonna be one, go ahead.
But you can't.
I don't, really possible, that ain't very democratic.
No,
guys,
but
if you-
there's also not a state statute to grant that either.
if you meet all
There
the
is.
state statutes, if you, whatever their requirements are for character, criminal history and all that kind of stuff, finances, if you meet those requirements, and if you meet the few requirements we have, and we're not allowed very many, if you meet all of that, then there has to be some sort of a system in place to determine who is the successful applicant, because you've got everybody qualified. If it isn't lottery, if it isn't first in time, then we better have some additional requirements, and they can't go beyond what the state has. And there aren't any additional requirements that we can impose, therefore. So it has to be first in time, or it has to be by lottery. If we have more than one available license, there's less need for the implementation of those kinds of controls. But if you don't do that, you're going to be picking favorites. And that is completely arbitrary, and that is completely capricious, and that is completely illegal. And that completely sets you up to be sued for discrimination.
Right.
We have to have some apparatus in place to determine if there are 10 applicants who are absolutely qualified, who gets them. It can't be who our favorite is. It's got to be not arbitrary, not capricious. It's got to be determined statutorily by law and fairly and objectively. And so everybody's qualified who applies. We have to have some mechanism in place to say which one gets it if we're gonna have one license.
Yeah, but if you do
I've
it,
got a question though.
Even if we have three
When
licenses.
the applicants, I could be wrong, but from what I understand, you'll have the applicants come to us. We pick, if there's 5, we pick 1, or maybe we want more than 1. I don't know. We've been working on the premises of 1, so I'm just gonna say 1. But, okay, we picked this person. Now the state looks into them, right?
That's first. They have to,
The state
I
they
think
have to
they
get
have
their
to-
state permit first. And then,
They have to have their state permit first.
from what I understand, like, you have to be, I don't know if certified is the correct word, but
Okay.
you have to be compliant with the
Yes.
state.
Basically, they,
So they won't come to us until the state's already did their background check on
Yeah.
them, or compliant to what the rules are that they set forth.
There's only one problem with that is the refund is based on them not getting state certification.
Right.
And if you do a horse race
Supposed to be that
situation,
clear.
if you do a horse race situation, the first one to get compliant with the state automatically comes in here, you know, and applies. The first one that got out there would automatically be our first one that qualified here, because you have to be qualified there first. So do a horse race deal, you need to put a time limit or something on it, so if they get qualified a certain amount of time. Which still goes back to you're deciding who's gonna be in business and who isn't.
If you
Even
don't-
though there's 2 or 3 that are qualified, one was faster than the
If you don't want to put yourself in that position then, and you do want to have a lot fewer applicants, then you can certainly set the fee a lot higher than $10,000. One county's got it at
And you can
$125,000.
put it, there's no refund.
Does somebody
My
want to
recommendation is
risk
still
losing
$50,000.
$125,000 if they get turned down?
My recommendation is $50,000 fee, 50% back if you don't,
Why not?
Get your license.
Just keep it all. That will stop people from applying.
we're required by law to allow one. We are certainly not required by law to invite one.
Well, that's what I mean.
That's right.
So you're
If you go
saying you'd rather have one in Pierre or here than here?
Well, City Miller is gonna allow one in.
So, but
That's
I
if somebody
agree
really
with
would
you,
risk
but
losing
I still
$5,000.
think if they don't qualify, they don't get their money back. Why give them half their money back?
It isn't qualified. They've already qualified.
I'm assuming when they come to us, they're gonna be qualified.
Also, you gotta get through the
if
state.
I had to name one, this is maybe, I would say that probably South Carolina's building that's for sale, it's a gun shop right now, it already has a lot of the amenities.
Right, no, but it doesn't have to be so many feet from
But
a
if it's-
residential,
If
and
it's
all
a
that
business you
stuff.
don't want.
I believe it's
down
only
there and down,
1,000
no, just make it a minimum,
from-
make it whatever you want.
From a
That's
school,
what
it's
a
not
lot
as,
of people said
it's
we
not
should
as
go to the hog barn, just make
detailed
it
as you think that it would
$5 million
be.
to get a permit.
Um,
and then let it
I
go.
never really get that.
Just say
But I
you
would
don't
say-
want them there,
The
then.
gun
It's a
shop,
simpler way to
if
say it.
someone was
We don't want you here.
gonna buy something, that,
Also, isn't there like,
We're not saying we don't want to here, if you want to pay that much money.
yes, but
They were
that's,
allergic.
so somebody else can take her across the street?
then no.
I think you'll just have one in the
But
But
you
I
know, does the county have to,
Yes, I don't know, like Fort here, I think they're
in
allowing
the
three,
county, one is
here
already.
themselves allowing,
Yes, because it's not, that isn't the jurisdiction.
That's,
Fort Here's allowing three, I think.
I don't know.
In a county this sparsely populated,
I know
One
Redfield's
they're
got
gonna have to
already
figure
worked.
out that all the
That
counties.
somebody's
They're trying to, they're building it up too.
Now,
To go
you said
wherever.
if outside money comes in, to do this, they're gonna designate a spot.
That's the thing is,
Service.
luckily, sorry, I shouldn't say that, but in my opinion, yes, Huron and Pier are gonna have them. I know Redfield's in the process of putting one in their
Rural or city?
city. They have a business owner that bought a building and is making it up to code. They already sell fittings and CBD and all that kind of stuff. So they're working towards that right now. I have not heard any, not that anyone would tell me, but I haven't heard any serious stories for Miller area or Hannah County, anywhere for that matter. So,
I can tell you in Minnesota, there's many people that are there, there aren't that many dispensaries. You have to be in a very populated area.
Aren't there only 8 in the whole state?
I'm
That's
not,
Iowa.
5?
Iowa has a very, very small one.
I mean, they're not gonna come to every little, I mean, I don't know, is it worth looking at one, but I just have a hard time believing that they're gonna put one in every little town.
Well, even like in Colorado, they're pretty highly populated areas where all them are at. You're not gonna run out to Torrington or edges of Colorado and see any pop up right across the county, or right across the state line. They just don't work that way. Yeah, it's certain amount of business, you know.
we don't even have McDonald's. And those are proven, so.
What if we sort of went down the middle of the road and said, well, let's make it $10,000, and let's say it's first in time. First in line is first in time, and that's the person who gets it, assuming they meet all the requirements, they have to, of the state and all the requirements on their ordinance. And not try to plow too much new ground here. I don't know why we need to.
Why $10,000 as opposed to 50,000?
Well, they'd be out $5,000 if they didn't get it. I mean, although, when you think about it, why would they even apply if it's first in time? Why would anybody risk getting the second application in and automatically, immediately
Well, I don't
losing
think-
$5,000?
I don't think that's fair business practice either,
You know, I don't
you
even,
necessarily want, I mean, to me, it should be, I can see you doing the application process, and if they don't get it, what do we care? Give them-
give them all of it back.
Yeah,
Okay, but
Or
how
they're
are we
not gonna
gonna
be
do,
here.
how are we gonna decide if there are multiple applications that meet all the requirements? By lottery? That's the only way you can do it.
that's what I would say.
What if we
So
took
you're
them,
saying you put up a no risk there.
what if
You're giving
we-
them all their money back, give them no risk. So why would they do it in Miller? Why not build a shop out 5 miles north? Then it's our problem, not.
what if we take
But if we
the,
bump the price up,
take the applications in order, and if the first applicant doesn't get it, the second applicant, but we don't take their fee until they're considered to be the applicant.
But Jim,
Yeah,
they're not
but-
gonna apply unless they meet all the requirements.
Right.
Why would you risk applying
Well, they go
$5,000,
through it
$10,000
this time.
application fee if you're convicted of some crime 10 years ago or you've been paroled twice? You aren't gonna apply. The only people who are gonna apply are gonna be people who are qualified. So, I mean, you're not gonna discourage applications by making it any particular price.
I wonder how much, is this making, how much of that's gonna be compliant with the state? You know, are they gonna have to have a building in time that's all done, ready, set, compliant? Or can
Right, they're not gonna come apply with us until they have their business plan and everything ready to go.
and done with the state, I would assume.
Right.
But to be done with the state, what they have to have
we're not gonna see some guy like, oh gosh, I want to go to King County and open a dispensary. This is gonna be a formulated plan. They've already been doing business like this. So.
Yeah, I just,
As far as
you know,
fees, I don't know, I think.
I just don't know if we're beating a dead horse here or not.
But that's why you need to keep those application fees at a pretty significant number, so you don't have to filter through people that aren't gonna qualify and people that are just barely, barely got enough money to set this thing up, but not the application fee, it's gonna help.
But would you really feel right if you made an application for it and we put in there that we're gonna take one application at a time, upon refusal, another application will be taken? So it comes up and you follow all the guidelines, come in Dane County, we read it over and he said, I don't really like the sound of this guy. Let's dump him and go to the second one.
No, I agree with that.
I think we
I
find
agree with what you
ourselves in
said.
court.
I do, I
I think
agree
we
with
find
that.
ourselves in court because he's did everything to comply. And now we're saying, now this ain't really good enough. We're gonna go to the next applicant, see how we like him. Now you're back to the county setting up.
Can't be arbitrary.
No,
No, I agree with that.
Yeah. So somewhere along we'd have to, if we're gonna put a money deal on it, we gotta figure out how we're gonna play the rest of the card game. I don't know how a better way to put that is.
I think you're right, which one of you was saying, I don't remember which one. I don't think we're gonna have a flood of applicants in Kane County's up to go.
No.
But also, I think if you
But they
place
took it, they did pick a county in Colorado and that's where it's at, so don't say you
It
can't
can't
have.
happen.
You can't,
Exactly.
but also if you put the fee at 50,000 or 125,000 or whatever, I mean, you're gonna, in essence, force no one in Hand County to be involved in it. And you're gonna open it up only to those that are coming from out here.
You'd be
But if you-
inviting outside money.
Yeah,
You're inviting outside, this is gonna be outside money to begin with.
if you had it at 10,000, there might be somebody that, hey, I wanna move back home and put up a dispensary. Open up a dispensary.
It's not
I'm gonna
much.
do that back home. It might happen. But if you put it at 10,000, it could just open us up for a lot of illegal community because we're too cheap. 6 1, half dozen of them.
We could open it to 5 applicants at a time with a time limit.
Well, then, assuming we get 5 applicants who have paid their fees and are fully qualified under all the requirements of our ordinance and the state, what mechanism is in place?
Lottery.
to
Lottery.
award it?
Lottery.
Okay, then that's what we have to decide. Are we gonna do it?
How else you can do it?
That's the only way,
If
it's
they're
the
all,
only fair way to do it.
if they're all qualified.
Because that way it takes it out of our,
If they're all compliant within the state, and compliant within the county, how are we gonna pick them? Because if we start picking them ourselves, then it's the county running it. No different than if the city starts picking out of 1 or 2 or 3 applicants, whether you wanna say it any way you want to. That city board picked out who they're gonna get there and they get to be
get
responsible
we
for.
don't. Do we have a consensus that if we have more than one applicant, we would use the lottery system to determine
Qualified applicant,
qualified applicant, yeah, qualified applicant? We would
Within a
use a
time-
lottery system
yes.
It is,
to award.
Within a time limit too.
Yeah.
I think we could put a time limit on it.
Yeah, you can't just say first person in the door, no.
But once the first applicant comes in
A
within a
deadline.
certain amount of time, anybody that wants to apply better get their hand in it. I don't know.
Or have
Right.
a deadline, if you're gonna
Yes.
apply, it's till this time, however many come in, we do a lottery. If
Yeah.
only one comes in, I guess he's in.
let's set that time then, that time frame from the first applicant. Are we gonna give them 6 months for anybody else to get in or what?
That'll be, or whatever random number you want, at the end of that.
How long, I suppose the problem with some of this is,
What does there's no.
how long is it gonna be, how long is the state gonna take to, once someone goes to the state and says, I want a dispensary, how long does it take them to get someone?
Yeah.
Well, that's
Through their
already-
process.
When does this process start?
2024?
Right, I don't know, there's so many unknowns here.
Well, they're still, ain't done on the state yet.
I don't think we have to have this that well defined today. If we just say that it'll be determined by lottery, it's assumed by all who hear that word that it'll be fairly administered.
Is it fair to say nobody's in a hurry for this deal, or I see no reason to make them hurry us? So why wouldn't it just be during the year 2022, all applicants will be considered? And during that year frame, at the end of the year, you'd have your lotto if there was more than one, and that's who would get it. And if they stayed compliant, they'd keep their license. If they didn't stay compliant, they wouldn't keep their license. But make it a whole year, you're gonna apply for this year. We ain't in a hurry.
Well, we need to have in place all the rules and regulations under which they are applying. That's all we're doing today.
Right.
So how much are we gonna charge them to apply? How much is refundable? We've already decided we'll give it away by lot.
Why, okay,
For
what
quality.
I have
Driving the
referred
same sports car next year.
What's that, Shane?
Unless you're all driving the same new sports car next year.
What I haven't yet figured out is why is there a reimbursement?
And I can't.
Well, it's to separate the wheat from the chaff. People who are serious about the business and serious about complying with the rules and regulations would be willing to risk money, probably, that others would not be at liberty to risk, is my guess.
And if you knew you were having to come into Hand County and that was your goal in life to be in here in 2022, you better get your pooping group. You got 1 year to get her done.
I don't think we should penalize people for meeting all the requirements but losing the lottery.
Right, because it's gonna be totally random.
That's not.
But I don't know that we want, can we, I guess, I don't know, does that make sense to not take the dollars in until after we've awarded it and say, okay, we've awarded it to you, Lou, now you pay us $10,000, you have a week to do it, and if you don't, it goes
The
to
way we do
back to the lottery.
The way we do it with booze licenses is they attach a check to their application. We don't cash it unless they
And
get
we
it,
just cash it.
right?
We do now,
Oh, we do now?
because we're not supposed to hold on to it. for more
You
than-
gotta realize,
Oh, that's the way
you gotta
we used to
realize
do
you won't have a check. It'll be cash.
We would refund them.
That's
That would
what
be
it's
the best
gonna
way
be.
to do it.
Little-
You just,
You're
you take the
not
dollars,
dealing with checks.
then do it after.
When you're doing this, because you can't take a check to the bank.
Then we know if it's good.
Because banks are federally
Well-
funded. This is not, it's,
So we're talking about cash on a barrelhead? Do you hear what he's saying?
I hear what you're saying.
And
Federal
You
law
can't
says
make
you
a
can't.
payment on,
you can't make a payment on this license with a check.
because it's federally still illegal.
Right. The Fed says it's a credit.
Yeah, that's why they have to have the money picked up by armored car, because you can't.
You're gonna be dealing in,
This is
Yeah,
crazy.
walking with your debit.
I mean, if it happens, you're dealing in cash.
I never thought about that.
That's why most of these prescriptions that are written will never be signed by a doctor because they're all,
Medicaid and Medicare, money, they'd lose it all.
they do not sign the card that you're gonna get. They'll give them the card, but there's no signature on it.
That's why they're just giving them away like candy.
If it wasn't up to being approved by the voters and all that, we could just say we don't want it.
Are we,
Rather than put a $500,000 sign-up fee for it. But it wasn't agreed by the voters.
are we in favor of only one license?
Well, that's the other thing. We haven't decided that yet.
Or are we gonna do multiples?
If we are in favor of one license, then we're in favor of somebody establishing a monopoly in Hand County, South Dakota. Be like having one liquor dealer.
Well,
Like
like,
having the municipal
the
liquor.
city can
dealer
have one, and the
really-
county can have one theoretically. But,
And that could be the same
Each
person.
city could have.
right, I guess that's true, each city can have one. So it wouldn't necessarily mean, I
West
don't know if I would consider that a monopoly necessarily,
Legal side.
you know what I mean? I don't know.
I think I see what you're saying.
We're part of a monopoly right now with the Vera Health Insurance.
Yeah.
That's my opinion.
But if you determine there's only gonna be one in the county outside of the city, you just determine the county's got to run one distributor. It would be us, because we picked out who it was gonna be.
No.
We're doing lottery.
We decided lottery. So
Okay,
that's done. We
Okay.
got that done already.
so now we're gonna put,
Don't beat that horse anymore.
good. Good, how many dollars? Let's put the dollars.
50,000.
Jim's got a 50,000 on it. Anybody wanna go 100?
Do I
Let me see that, let me
get
see
Yeah,
that.
anybody want to
Let
bid
me
it?
see that list again, I'm just kind of curious.
Most of them are in the $2,000 to $10,000 range.
There's a couple, there's 125, there's a 50.
Don't forget.
There's
A couple 50s.
I don't think it should be any lower than the expense of creating all of this and administering.
Well, how about the costs of law enforcement once this thing is unleashed on
I'll
society?
come back with that one later.
Huh?
I'll come back with that one later. 'Cause
We'll see.
Well, you already said there's a balance between legal and illegal, you know.
Oh, yeah, well, that's, yeah.
So we get high enough, there isn't none here, so they either travel somewhere else and get it or buy it illegally, one or the other. You know, you got that decision.
And don't think that
The
Colorado
legal,
is out
the illegal
illegal
already here.
weed either.
No, there's, I mean,
There's
What'd you say?
more- I said, don't think that Colorado has wiped out illegal marijuana either. It's driven it up, so.
Yeah. If you
And
get
the only,
cost
and
high,
another
that's
thing
fine.
that Mexico has done, every time that we allow these dispensaries in here, they set up and grow even more illegally than are being brought into the dispensary. because
So it encourages
it
that
encourages
sector of the economy.
And now Mexico is importing more meth and more fentanyl because the marijuana agriculture, or, you know, growing marijuana has all gone from Mexico to the United States and all these legal states. So they don't have that export anymore, so now they're creating fentanyl labs. And next year, we're gonna see more fentanyl than meth, which means more deaths.
Well, they say there's 1.8 million fentanyl pills out there right now that have just recently come over the border, and they're all from Mexico.
Everything.
All
And then we're gonna see labs pop up that make fentanyl. Fentanyl's the new weed.
Shane, I find it interesting that you use the word export.
That's what it is.
That's what it is.
So, dollar. Or is anybody ready to finish this? If you ain't ready to finish this, we can go on.
Well, we should do something today, so that we have an ordinance to read. If you say
Well-
50,000, I'd second your motion. I guess it isn't a motion at this
Well,
point.
we're gonna take it to the board here.
Okay, I would back that.
We'll go out here.
I mean,
I have no
that's
problem.
not out of line.
And we can fit it, and we can alter that number.
Yes, we can.
What is like steak and hide and veal and?
Some of them don't have.
doesn't matter, we don't have
I
to
mean,
be
is
with
there
other companies.
universe there, that are around us?
Yeah, let's just be higher than.
I mean, I'm thinking of like the
That's-
highway store. You can't buy beer in Buffalo County, so you have a highway store. Are we gonna have a dispensary sitting on the county line that's not, we're not going to get the money from, that we're gonna have to deal with the problem from? You know, we're gonna have to deal with the problem, we might as well.
Spink has nothing.
We might as well get
Spink doesn't
that.
even have them.
They just did for George.
Vito County is
Or
a
is it on
thousand, I
there?
have their,
In part.
I have a thousand there,
That's just because they didn't answer.
Vito County,
Vito County,
For
I have
Onyx?
their,
1,000, Vito County, and their higher box.
Hyde is also blank.
They probably haven't done it yet.
No, they're 5,000. 5,000. Gerald is blank, so that means they did not participate.
If there's nothing behind the name, that means that they haven't
Didn't
submitted.
answer anybody else.
This means they're still sitting where we are.
Or they just didn't answer the email.
Gregory's about our size, they're 5,000.
We don't want one here.
How about Clark? We
And
can
if that's
them
the
on.
consensus,
Clark's about
that's what
us.
we're looking for, a consensus to take on.
It would be interesting,
5,000.
I don't, do you have the number on Hyde County where that vote was?
Probably get it though. Once they reset the website.
That's the
What
only
the
thing I
popular vote
say
was.
is this county actually voted for it.
Right.
So if we put 50 or 100 or $1 million on there, we're telling them we don't want it here, we don't want what the county voted for.
That's why I say I
But
think
it
middle
is
road
more.
is better.
Cause I think
The numbers are available, if you
Huh?
can find them, it's gotta be more than 1,000.
Well, like Doug said, it's gotta be at least enough to cover the expense of the deal. And maybe it end up 50,000, I don't know if you
Yeah,
get
so
the
for
court
example,
battle over it, it will be.
the beverage license is at $400 is not right. When you take into fact, if we had to publish and just dealing with the application process and the shuttling of information around. And if you wanna just cover your bare expenses, you're right, and then if he gets a K-9, that K-9 is gonna have to have annual training, then marijuana's gonna be a learning trip, because then how much versus not enough, and will the dog have to
And
focus?
it's a recreational
Other
conversation, the
things.
marijuana dog is just about.
He said you could have to train that dog for fentanyl,
Well,
because
that's the worst part
marijuana
is
is
you
different.
think, I don't have to skate for
Basic.
marijuana, like
What's on the
a
grass?
lot of the drugs. It's the collateral damage that comes with all this that hasn't been done correctly, that is, you know, if we would take care of the southern part of the world, it wouldn't affect us as much, but that's, you know, when you're introducing all this other drugs so much heavier because nobody, you know, they're not smuggling weed anymore, so they're pushing all this other heavier stuff. That's what's gonna create the problems, not because you have back pain, you wanna sit at home and smoke a joint. That doesn't bother me, you know?
Right.
Yeah, even if you smoke a joint, and don't get hooked on opioids, that's even a plus, so I'm not gonna argue against that, it's just a collateral.
One thing for sure, if you hurry up and do something, you're just about guaranteed to get to redo it.
Well, that's why what we're doing today certainly does not,
60%.
So, no,
have any legal import.
No, and if you put this down, whatever you put down, I don't care if it's $50,000, it's gonna go to the
I
first
was
reading.
looking
And
at
if the people of Hannon County
We're
don't
gonna-
like the way we're doing it, they better get in here and tell us.
Yeah, they're saying, we put the number too high, or we put the number too low.
That's where it comes from.
Where they were
That's
allowed
why
to-
I think
maybe we
no
don't-
problem with putting that
Hancock
on.
didn't vote for, or either.
Is this hand?
This is high, this is hand, yeah.
What was the score? I can't read it from here.
66 to 34, no.
On medical or recreational?
Recreational, isn't
Adult use.
Okay, so that's
It
recreational.
says ensuring access to marijuana for medical use too. So it's both.
Well, initiated measure is the next one.
it? Yeah.
Oh,
So-
there you go, so it can go to yes.
Sports wagering is the next one. Oh, down the bottom?
They don't-
Coming up to this, isn't
So-
amendment A coming back up for vote, from what I understand?
Well, it's gonna take a long time because you can't put more than one.
So, okay,
change
so we voted for
in
it
each event.
for medical, but for recreational, we
You guys
voted
told
no.
me it's-
No,
And
almost 2 to 1.
The lawyer was
On
there.
recreational,
Right.
but we voted yes on medical.
Recreational
Against
is going to be
Yes,
So
good to go.
yes.
this
Well,
we're dealing with right here today
Medical.
is medical.
They just have to, you're gonna have to.
And I think it
More
vote
than
there
one
was
amendment
kind of
and
lopsided.
can't change too many.
I don't mean to be a
Pretty
lead here, but I think the epiphany that we're going by here is we need to put a number on it, and I don't care if it's Jim's number or whose number it is. Because it'll go to first reading, and if the people in Hannon County care, they're gonna come down.
If they don't like
50%
the
of
number,
them
if they
voted
don't
for
like
it,
the
I didn't
so
know.
if they come tell us, not 5, 50% of them voted for it. That's when they need to come tell us, you put that way too high, we're never gonna get what we want, or it's not high enough, or whatever. That's why we have readings, you know, so
Should we say 50
let's put a number on it.
for purposes
Go
of
forward.
proceeding, at least going ahead with it?
And if there's
You
an
know, I
outside
change
that
it.
says, what are you trying to run out of?
I would say 50, and then if there's multiple applicants,
Lottery.
they get, well, lottery, we're gonna do that, but I think they get their money back.
I think so.
Right,
too.
no
Because
change.
I really don't understand
I
why
guess-
they would wanna keep money just, I guess. And my thoughts on that is, if you apply
you're
for
really-
something and you don't get it, you ought to at least get your money back.
Then you're really telling someone not to come for sure.
All of our permitting business through all of our offices here, there's nothing that would equal that we ever make anybody pay for a permit. They don't build it in an extra fee or what. We're bringing whole new ground doing that, keeping their money.
We have some other blanks we need to fill in.
Okay, what else we got?
I think if the application is high enough, then refunding it is probably not a problem. You know, the unsuccessful applicants, that the fee acquires, or the fee is included with the application, but the anybody non-successful gets their fee back. Is
Yeah,
that
I would think
reasonable?
so.
We're gonna have armed guards up here on the second floor when they guarding their $50,000 cash.
I'll just take it home.
I'll just take it home with me. Me and Gib will split it.
We'll take it home, take care of
This
it.
isn't even a serious topic until your neighbor opens this thing up, and all of a sudden there's traffic in and out of that place
Mhm.
all times of the day and night, And
I
she and
imagine
all the
that
deputies-
there'll be statutes out of the state for how they run these things and how they're supposed to run them. If they don't comply, then we send that guy there to
Let's
visit
move
with
on
them.
down to the next.
Section 7 says no more than blank number of dispensaries shall be allowed to operate in the unincorporated area. We've already said 1, right?
What about the reimbursement? We didn't get to that.
Oh, reimbursement, we're going to give their money back if they are qualified, but didn't get it because they lost the lottery. Yeah.
One 100%.
Yep.
I think we're all,
Yeah.
Okay, so then let's go down to the renewal fee is blank. Why wouldn't it be the same as the application fee? Why would it be less? I see some of them did make it less, but I don't know why.
Most of them have been for whatever reason.
Because they're doing it as a 2-year commitment, basically, so they keep that the next year they get their money back, but it goes right back to the next year.
So what do you want to do there?
so you're pretty much like holding a bond.
You're holding their, yep.
You're about
Like your
holding
next
half their
year's.
money as a bond
Yep.
against their
So they
willingness
wouldn't-
That's why
to
they're
do
doing
business.
that, is it's,
So if you give half it back, then we're basically saying that every year they're after the 2 years, every year after that would be 25,000. If you stay at
if
50.
you did half,
If
but
you did
that's
half.
why they're doing 10,000, and then they get, after the first year, they get 5,000 back. That's their renewal fee, so they get it back, and then they give it right back for their next year's fee, and then from then on, it's.
So the initial application fee for a first-time applicant is $50,000. How about a first-time applicant next year that's never applied before? Do they have to pay 50? But the guy who wants to renew gets 5 for 25?
Well, you only have one, so.
No,
there is
one.
no-
But what if he's running against him and he wants to do a lottery?
Once he's in business, he
Once,
can't,
yeah.
He stays.
he stays.
He's
You
got
can't
a
kick him out.
monopoly.
Okay, so then
Like
that
liquor
guy does
store.
have a monopoly,
Like liquor
He's
store.
paying.
Yeah, and stays in compliance.
correct?
I mean, well, for Pan County, yeah.
He has a monopoly in Han County forever.
This is
Once he
what we
gets-
just talked about, because there's other
Same
ones.
with Bree Heights only has one bar license, and they're not gonna open it up for another one, so Ten Mile Tavern does have a monopoly.
So if you can get a
Bree Heights-
dispensary in Miller, Bree Heights, St. Lawrence,
Mhm.
Polo, they're all independent, and in
Polo's
counties. But yeah, anyway, you could have potential for multiples in the county,
Right.
so it's not like it's really,
Okay.
in my opinion.
Okay, so you're saying 50 is the application fee and you're suggesting 25 is the refund?
No, I just.
The renewal.
Yeah.
Renewal? Not
Renewal,
refund.
yeah.
Okay.
Start doing the refund.
Should we just go with that for purposes of today?
Because if it's wrong, we'll change it.
Yeah, it's gotta go through a hearing process yet.
Renewal fee is 25.
Yep.
Yep.
Then we go down to if a license holder is not operating an establishment which holds a license in preceding so many months, the license is flunked out. It's not to be renewed. So if they get a license and don't use it, they sacrifice their license. How many months are we gonna give them to get in business and get things moving?
12.
It seems like a long time.
Well, that's what our, like our conditional use permits and that
I guess
stuff.
our wind permit, that's.
It's supposed to be done in a year.
Yeah, it's a year on all.
Okay, what do we care?
So we
Yeah, but
said
they,
12 months.
now they gotta be up and running, not started to work on a building somewhere. They have to
It's
be
not-
in business.
Yeah, it isn't gonna take this long or that long. It's gonna be a small building and
Right.
it's gonna be hard to set up and get running.
It's just gotta be-
12 months would be-
It's okay, and it says operated the establishment, so it must be operated. Okay, so that answers that. 12 months we're given to get operated, right?
Yeah, I don't have any problem with that. Wait.
Which one, where are we at?
That's,
Section 8.
Page 4.
Section 8.
Yeah.
That's what it
So
says.
I have the renewal fee, but I don't have the next line for the reimbursement. On failed applicant.
50%.
No, it's
100%.
all.
Oh, on the loser, yeah.
All,
Yeah.
Whoever loses, all.
Okay, now we're down to section 10. A license may be revoked if the license is not subject to suspension under section 10 because of a violation outlined in that section. The license has been previously suspended in the preceding, well, how many months?
12.
A license may be revoked if the license is subject to suspension under section 10 because of a violation outlined in that section, and the license has been previously suspended in the preceding 12 months. So we're going to revoke it if they've already had a previous suspension.
In the previous year.
Yeah. Do we say 12 months?
Well, that way you can open it back up and have another new lotto if somebody else wants to come in business. You know.
Well, that was my question. If we have one, and they, for some reason, their
Selling,
license is suspended.
they're selling out the back door at 2 o'clock in the morning and you get caught and you get suspended.
Do we have to have another one then?
Well, we said we're gonna have one. We'd open it back up, maybe nobody'd apply.
That's true, I guess.
They'd have to be under the same situation.
So in other words, what they're saying is they're gonna have to have 2 suspensions before they lose their license, right?
This one
I,
just says.
I kind of feel like
previous
this
year.
is wrong, like it should say, the license may be revoked if the license is suspended under section 9, and the cause of suspension is not remedied. Because section 9 talks about suspension,
Yes,
so I feel like that is wrong in there. But I,
Well, section 10's just saying if you had something in the previous month preceding however many months, that we can suspend you no matter what happens before.
I don't think that wording's right, so.
But do you think 12 months,
It takes in the whole
that's
previous
a whole,
year,
that takes in a whole year.
previous year. So instead of months, you would say previous year. Because I saw the one, gives them a chance to recant themselves if it's,
Yeah, it does.
you know, if they have a problem and then they fix it. Well, if they get it fixed, then you go on the next one, but section 10 lets you go back 12 months for any, or at whatever month you want in there for it.
We could say 10 and 11, because 11 outlines potential violations that might warrant,
You always back up 12 months,
Ending.
you've covered your whole year.
yeah. Ken talks though about other kinds of violations that would qualify for revocation of your licensure. Other than lies and that kind of stuff in section 10. It expands it so that we can suspend somebody, revoke their license for a violation of anything under 10 or 11. For example, dealing in cannabis in a way that the license was not established to deal with. License owner is delinquent in payments to the city, the county, or the state, taxes. License owner, principal officer, or board member has been convicted of or continues to be to employ a person convicted. All those are under section, section 11. So why don't we send